Maritime oil stages are intended to endure the most serious weather patterns in the sea. Many miles from land, the team of the sea officer put their confidence in the innovation and honesty of the oil rig, yet, while unfortunate preparation, terrible plan, and outrageous weather patterns line up, not even their confidence can save them. The sea officer is a self-pushed semi-submarine seaward boring apparatus working in a space considered the stupendous Banks. It's claimed by an American organization, Sea Penetrating and Investigation, or ODECO. For short, it's sanctioned to Portable Oil Canada, who own the boring privileges for Hibernia Oilfield. Versatile Oil Canada is an auxiliary of the American organization Versatile Company. At the time it's fabricated, it's the world's biggest semi-substage. The apparatus weighs very nearly 25.0 tons. It's 396 feet in length, 362 feet wide, and 337 feet high, making it as high as a 30-story working. Obviously, while it's drifting close to 33% of that is beneath the waterline, it floats on two 400-foot-long barges that lie 80 feet underneath the waterline. These barges have balance tank compartments that can be somewhat loaded up with seawater. This assists with settling the apparatus in difficult situations. It's equipped for boring in sea profundities of 1,500 feet. The terrific Banks lie in the North Atlantic Sea, 166 miles east of Holy Person John's, Newfoundland in Canada. It's known for its rich oil and gas. It's additionally known for its serious weather patterns, especially in winter, and the sea profundities in the space range from 100 feet to 600 feet. On the morning of the 14th of February, 1,984 team individuals on board the Sea Officer get weather conditions gauges that predicts a serious winter storm is quickly moving toward the fantastic Banks. The tempest is connected to a significant Atlantic typhoon. This season, the locale is frequently exposed to outrageous climate occasions, and this approaching tempest is conjectured to be especially strong. The Sea Officer is intended to climate such an outrageous tempest. The apparatuses recently endured unforgiving circumstances, driving the team and the apparatus's administrators to genuinely believe in its capacity to handle this tempest. The group of the Sea Rangers begin to plan for the extreme climate. Standard systems include getting any free gear, checking that all climate-tight entryways and openings are fixed, and guaranteeing the security of the apparatus by dealing with its stabilizer tanks. The stabilizer control framework is basic in keeping up with the apparatus soundness. It directs how much water in the counterbalance tanks situated underneath the apparatus, permitting the apparatus to change its lightness, unsteadiness because of the ocean conditions. In groundwork for the tempest, the team checked the framework completely despite the fact that they begin making these fundamental precautionary measures. There's no quick reason to worry. They realize the apparatuses endured these hardships before, in spite of the normal seriousness of this tempest. Ordinary procedure on the apparatus go on as the night sets in. The tempest arrives at the Sea Officer. High breezes and transcending waves overshadow the colossal size of the Sea Officer. It's intended to deal with ends up to 100 bunches and waves up to 110 feet high, yet this tempest is demonstrating to be exceptionally strong, with waves that go past the rig's determined limits. At 1900, a rebel wave hits a close-by rig, the Sidco 706, which is likewise worked by Portable. The wave harms deck stuff and washes away a raft in spite of the crumbling climate and expanding ocean. Express. The Sea Officer proceeds with its boring tasks. The team have confidence in the apparatus, and the way of life of the seaward business is that interferences to activities are kept away from no matter what. Anyway, the circumstances are becoming testing. The group need to explore the apparatus in the blustery weather conditions, attempting to keep everything moving along as expected and securely. This requires consistent checking of the apparatus frameworks, particularly the weight control framework that is significant to keeping up with the apparatus' solidness in the fierce ocean correspondence with. The shore likewise keeps giving an account of the apparatus' status and the advancing circumstance this obligation to proceeding with tasks, despite the declining atmospheric conditions, goes to show the degree of certainty they have in the sea range's plan and capacities, or maybe their apprehension about responses for leaving their station 55 to 65-foot waves. Player the sea officer, a rebel wave rams into the officer simply past 12 p.m. This maverick wave is fundamentally bigger than different waves in the tempest which are as of now pushing the officer to its determined cutoff points. The wave hits with such power that it breaks the glass of an opening window in the counterbalance control room, the operational hub liable for keeping up with the apparatus' dependability. The window is just 25 feet over the waterline. With each ensuing wave, ocean water fills the room through the messed-up entryway. This room is loaded up with the electronic types of gear and control boards that control the balance tank frameworks, with seawater flooding the control place framework. Start and glitch. Very quickly, the ocean water causes critical electrical shorts inside the framework, prompting the glitch of key parts in the stabilizer control framework. At 2100, the Setco 706 radio administrator gets radio O correspondence on the sea officer, depicting how valves on sea range's balance frameworks give off an impression of being opening and shutting on their own. The team have zero control over the apparatus's rundown and trim, and it turns out to be logically more temperamental. While the group attempted to physically control the counterweight, the tempest deteriorates and more ocean water fills the control place without the capacity to appropriately control the balance tanks. The apparatus begins to run down or slant towards the front of the apparatus. This intends that, as the apparatus rides into the approaching waves, its bow is riding lower into each ensuing wave, which drives it further into the water instead of riding over top the approaching waves. Water begins to flood the forward chain storage spaces in the corner support segments. The group working the back control have a few burdens. Water is unleashing ruin with the programmed control framework, yet they don't have the legitimate preparation to know how to physically control the framework. They don't, for a moment, even have a manual to look into how to supersede the programmed framework and take manual control that probably won't make any difference in any case. As the bow plunges, it powers the harsh higher out of the water. The counterweight control siphons are in the harsh of the vessel as the bow sinks and the harsh ascents. The counterweight siphons don't have the ability to siphon water up such a long grade and out at the harsh. The level of posting increments as time passes. The team start to carry out crisis systems. These are sets of predefined activities intended to recover command over the apparatus' steadiness and forestalls. A total calamity. They fruitlessly attempt to physically control the balance tanks. They end all penetrating tasks and get ready for a potential departure. They shut down all unnecessary situation and procedure on the apparatus to zero in all assets on emergency. The executives, they share the drill string and remove from the victory preventer something the deep water skyline couldn't do. I'll pass on a connection to that video here. While the team are experienced and they've been prepared for crisis circumstances, the mix of a serious tempest breaking down gear and a posting rig causes what is happening at 52. The sea officer settles on a Mayday decision. Reserve support vessel Seaforth Highlander is mentioned to come in. Close countermeasures against the 10 to 15 degree list are demonstrating ineffectual. Canadian Coast Watchman and portable worked helicopters are alarmed soon after. 0100 emergency clinics in Stede Johns are placed on reserve. Their help vessels Bolton Visit and Norditor. The reserve vessels of Sidco 706 and Zapata Euclid are sequestered by the Canadian Coast Watchman to give help with a crisis circumstance. Coast monitors reserve the privilege to assume command over a vessel adrift altogether. To aid crisis, I've been sequestered in the waters around Cape Town. When a little boat lost its motors, the coast gatekeeper guided my group and I to the area. However, when we arrived, one more bigger vessel showed up on the scene, who was more equipped for helping than the boat I was in. The help vessels moving toward the sea officer are encountering a similar winter storm as the sea officer. High breezes, difficult situations, and unfortunate perceivability make risky circumstances that restricts the capacity of the salvage groups to reach the officer they should explore through the rough tempest, arrive at the undeniably unsteady sea officer, and afterward empty the team in very testing conditions. Consistently counts at 0130. Sea officer communicates its last message. There will be no further radio correspondences from the sea officer. We are going to RAF stations. Forsaking any boats in the sea is a significant choice today. The guideline is that you move forward onto your life pontoon, which implies your boat has previously sunk underneath you, yet to empty a seaward oil rig adds a few elements of intricacy. Social occasion, fundamental endurance gear, guaranteeing all group individuals have life coats, and preparing the rafts for clearing, all while an apparatus is shifting. Forsaking the apparatus is the final retreat for the team. It implies leaving the apparatus well-being of the apparatus and confronting the unforgiving components of the tempest. In a raft, it should be unnerving to move off a tremendous vessel that has been obliterated by the tempest and move into a small boat that by examination is the size of a bath. These arrangements are taking place in the midst of rising frenzy and disarray, with the group very much in the know that their lives hang in the voting forms. Rafts are intended to be sent off even in outrageous circumstances, yet the serious rundown of the sea officer makes it very troublesome. The team battle to send off them against the slants of the apparatus, the extraordinary breeze, and the gigantic waves. The rig's rafts are intended to utilize a gravity drop situation. Thus, the apparatus should be generally level for them to send off. The team figured out how to send off no less than one raft. The Seaforth Highlander game vessel shows up on the scene. They can see bodies drifting in the water. A raft with 8 or 9 men approaches them. The raft steams across the harsh and pulls close by their port quarter. The Seaforth can toss lines to the Existence pontoon previously. They can welcome anybody on board the Existence. Pontoon is battered against the structure of the Seaport Highlander and breakdowns the men in the water grip to the raft, which stays upset. The Seaforth battles its direction through the swell and wind to arrive at the men. They gradually surrender to the cool. Just a single man is seen wearing an orange endurance suit. The Seaforth moves into position and barely misses slashing him up in its propellers. The group on deck toss a catching snare to attempt to maneuver the man onto the boat. It snares his lifecoat, however the man slips underneath the waterline. It's essentially impractical to pull men from the water in such unpleasant circumstances. With the gear and deck arrangement, they have salvage groups from the coast gatekeeper trader, vessels supply boats from other oil rigs. Airplane and helicopters plummet on the scene. Salvage laborers fight against transcending waves, frosty temperatures, and strong breezes as they look for survivors. At 0230, the principal salvage helicopter shows up on the scene. Commander Mike Clark, the pilot of the pursuit salvage helicopter from Gander, brings down search and salvage professional expert Corporal Randy Brown from a 24-meter link into the freezing water and wailing storm to attempt to recover the primary man. They see he's now dead. Snow and waves assessed at 16 meters put forth their attempts unimaginable. It's the first and last airborne salvage endeavor. The circumstances are too hazardous. Flying over the pursuit region, salvage helicopters battle against winds moving toward 90 miles an hour. The weighty oceans make body recuperation incomprehensible. Skipper Clark rather attempts to direct the help vessels to bodies in the water. It rapidly turns out to be certain that the stockpile transport are battling for their own endurance. Sending men out at hand to recuperate bodies is a self-destruction mission, a salvage helicopter lands for refueling on another apparatus, the apparatus contributing brutally. The weighty oceans, the helicopter team becomes nauseous to the point they need to leave the refueling and return to their base ashore. The apparatus's serious rundown disintegrates until it arrives at a basic place where the apparatus is as off. Now, not steady at 313, the sea officer overturns and sinks beneath the waterline. The hunt and salvage activity transforms into a recuperation activity. In the days that follow, flotsam and jetsam and belongings from the sea officer wash up on the Newfoundland coast. Despite the fact that emergency clinics in Holy Person Johns are on reserve, not one patient from the sea officer is conceded. Every one of the 84 team individuals on board the sea officer are lost. Just 22 groups of the 84 team are recuperated. They're brought to year 17 in Holy Person Johns Harbor. Journalists are held back so that no photos can be taken. A Russian fishing vessel technician, Tarasov, sinks. In similar tempest, the collections of the Russian sailors are brought to a similar wharf off the clock. Sea officer group individuals were approached to really look at the Russian bodies to ensure no men from the sea officer were unintentionally shipped off Russia. After the tempest has passed, sonar and submerged ROVs are utilized to find the destruction of the sea officer on the ocean bottom. The apparatus lies in water around 100 feet. It's concluded that this shallow profundity represents a peril for marine traffic, thus the apparatus will be redrifted and soaked in more profound water. An European organization is given the agreement to rescue the apparatus. During these tasks, 2 jumpers are shipped off, recuperate fuel from tanks in the barge. They cut into the boat utilizing cutting-like gases from the fuel lights, making a blast, killing the 2 jumpers. Another jumper is killed 7 days some other time when an enormous piece of metal trash tumbles from the rescue boat and pulverizes him against the indented rig, bringing the complete loss of life of the sea officer to 87 men. Unfamiliar